Returning from a business trip, exhaustion pulled me into a deep sleep. A strange late-night call from my mother-in-law woke me. Sitting up, I overheard hushed whispers outside my door, uncovering a shocking plot devised by my husband's family. I feigned sleep until dawn, then executed a plan that left them pale with shock. The late-night hum of Paris had softened, the city's relentless energy giving way to the gentle rustle of leaves in the garden. The air was filled with the chirping of crickets, a familiar, peaceful sound. I had just returned home from a long business trip in the south of France. My flight was delayed for hours, leaving me utterly drained and craving the comfort of my bed. Our townhouse stood quietly in a high-end gated community, a world away from the city's hustle. Warm yellow light spilled from the entrance, illuminating a meticulously cared-for garden. I was too tired to even think about dinner, so I took a quick shower and went straight to my bedroom. Liam, my husband, was still in the living room watching a football match. "Go on to sleep," he said. "I'll be up in a bit." I nodded, my eyelids heavy. Our bedroom was spacious, with a large window overlooking a small private garden. I vividly remembered the day my parents handed us the keys to this house as a wedding gift. Liam had been so moved he was on the verge of tears. He held my hand tightly, promising to love and care for me for the rest of our lives. Although my parents weren't entirely thrilled with our marriage due to the significant difference in our family backgrounds, they couldn't bear to stand in the way of their daughter's happiness. All they wanted was for me to find a kind, loving man who would protect me. For the past year, I believed I had chosen the right person. My sleep was fitful, a combination of fatigue and the unfamiliarity of my own bed after days in hotels. Around 1 a.m., I woke up with a dry throat. The air conditioning on the plane and in the bedroom had left me dehydrated. I rolled over to find the other side of the bed still empty. Liam must still be downstairs. I didn't think much of it. The match must have been captivating. I slipped on a light robe and quietly opened the door to get some water from the kitchen. The wooden staircase was silent as I descended, my mind still cluttered with figures and contracts from my trip. The house was bathed in the soft glow of a nightlight in the hallway. As I passed my in-laws' first-floor bedroom, I was about to continue to the kitchen when a familiar, hushed voice caught my ear. It was my mother-in-law, Eleanor. "Is Isabel sound asleep, son?" My heart skipped a beat. Why were my in-laws and Liam still awake at this hour? I instinctively pressed myself against the wall, concealed by the shadows. Liam's whispered reply was just as quiet. "Don't worry, Mother. She just got back from her trip. She's exhausted. I checked on her a moment ago. She was dead to the world." "You must be careful," Eleanor urged, her voice a mix of impatience and barely concealed excitement. "We're so close now. We can't afford any mistakes. Chloe called me this afternoon. The doctor said she might deliver earlier than expected. It could be this week or the next. We need to be ready." "Chloe?" The name sounded familiar. Ah, I remembered. The distant cousin from the countryside Liam introduced me to, who had just moved to Paris looking for a job. Liam had said she was sweet and innocent, and asked if I could find a position for her in my company. I had been too busy to look into it. She had visited a few times, bringing small gifts for my in-laws. She was young, with a delicate frame, a pretty face, and a soft-spoken, polite demeanor. Why would my mother-in-law be talking about her in such a cryptic way in the middle of the night? My father-in-law, Arthur, a man of few words, chimed in. "Calm down, Eleanor, don't make things complicated. Let Liam handle it. As long as the boy is born healthy and we have the DNA test results in hand, everything will go according to our plan." A DNA test for a baby boy. My head started to spin. The scattered pieces of a puzzle were appearing before me, but I couldn't assemble them into a coherent picture. Eleanor's voice, sharper this time, cut through my confusion. "How can I not be anxious? We need to act quickly. Once the baby is born, we can formally demand a division of assets. Isabel's inability to produce a son is her greatest failing. The Dubois family line cannot end. This house, the properties in her name, and her shares in the subsidiary company, we must find a way to transfer everything to Liam. Then we'll kick her out, send her back to her wealthy parents with nothing. With a grandson, I have no need for a barren daughter-in-law. Each word from Eleanor was like a sharp blade piercing my heart. My chest tightened, and I struggled to breathe. I had to lean against the wall to keep from collapsing. My world was tilting on its axis. It was all a lie. The husband I adored, the in-laws I had served with all my heart, they were plotting to seize my assets and throw me out of my own home. And Liam, he had a mistress. That mistress was Chloe, the distant cousin, and she was about to give him a son. "Keep your voice down, mother," Liam cautioned. "I've already thought about the assets. That prenuptial agreement she made me sign is a nuisance, but I've consulted a lawyer. There are loopholes. If I can prove that most of the assets were accumulated during our marriage due to my efforts, and add in the fact that she can't bear a son, the court will have to reconsider. Besides, I'm the director of the subsidiary. I have access to all the paperwork. Just relax and wait for your grandson." My throat was bitter. The prenuptial agreement. It was the one thing my father had insisted on before our wedding. "The business world is treacherous, and people's hearts are unpredictable," he had said. "You need to protect yourself." At the time, I had been angry with him, thinking he was being cynical and insulting the pure love between Liam and me. Liam had signed it willingly, claiming he loved me for who I was, not for my family's wealth. His smile and words from that day now seemed disgustingly fake. I couldn't hear any more. I silently turned and walked back to my bedroom, a chilling numbness spreading through me. The cold I felt wasn't from the night air, but from the brutal truth that had just been laid bare. My entire world, my trust, my love, all shattered in a few short minutes. I closed the bedroom door as quietly as I could. My body trembled, not from fear, but from a surge of rage and betrayal. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my face in my hands. The tears wouldn't come, but my heart felt like it was being ripped to shreds. 5 years of love, devotion, and sacrifice, all for this bitter betrayal and a meticulously calculated scheme. How had I loved Liam so deeply? I, a young woman who had been sheltered her whole life, had willingly hidden my background to get to know him. A brilliant but poor university student with a strong will. I had defied my family's objections to marry him. I had used all my connections to help him in his career. I had brought his parents from the countryside to live with us, treating them as my own, hiring help so they wouldn't have to lift a finger. I did it all because I loved and trusted him completely. But now the truth revealed how foolish I had been. I had been nurturing a viper in my own home, caring for a pack of wolves in sheep's clothing. They criticized me for not having a son. How ridiculous. I remembered Eleanor's attitude change after I gave birth to our daughter, Sophie. She was no longer warm and affectionate. Whenever someone complimented Sophie on her beauty, Eleanor would just purse her lips and walk away. She was always sighing, making pointed remarks about the Dubois family needing a male heir to carry on the name. At the time, I dismissed it as old-fashioned thinking. I never imagined it was the beginning of such a monstrous plot. I lay down and pulled the covers over my head. What should I do? Confront them now? No, that would be too easy for them. They would deny everything, and all I had was what I had overheard. It would just make me look like a pathetic, defeated woman. I couldn't let that happen. I am Isabelle Dubois, the daughter of the chairman of the Beaumont Group. I would not allow myself to be broken. An idea sparked in my mind. If they wanted to put on a play, then I would be both the audience and a fellow actor. I would pretend to know nothing. I would secretly gather evidence, piece by piece, until I had the power to turn the tables and make them pay for everything they had done to me. With that thought, a sense of calm returned. The pain was still there, but my reason had taken over. I wiped away the few tears that had escaped. I had to be strong, for myself and for my sweet daughter Sophie. A short while later, I heard the bedroom door creak open. I closed my eyes, regulating my breathing, pretending to be fast asleep. A figure approached the bed. I could feel Liam's familiar presence beside me. He stood there for a long moment, making sure I was asleep. Then I felt his hand gently stroke my hair. The touch that once brought me warmth and love now sent a shiver of disgust down my spine. He thought I was oblivious. He was still playing the role of a devoted, loving husband. The hypocrisy was laughable. He quietly left the room, probably to make a call from the balcony or his study. I counted to 100 before slowly getting up and following him. The door to his study was slightly ajar. I stood outside, hidden, able to hear his voice clearly. It was no longer the deep, gentle tone he used with me, but a sickeningly sweet baby talk voice. "I'm here, my love. Are you asleep yet? I miss you too much. I can't sleep." A woman's whiny voice came through the phone. "My belly feels so tight and uncomfortable today." "Poor baby," Liam cooed. "Just hang in there. In a few more days, we'll finally get to meet our son. I just spoke with my parents. Everything is going according to plan. You just focus on staying healthy. Don't worry about a thing. Our son has to be the strongest, smartest baby ever." "Okay," she replied, "but I'm so worried. Isabel, she doesn't suspect anything, does she?" "Don't worry about her," Liam said dismissively. "She's naive and gullible. She believes anything I say. It's been that way for years. She just got back from a business trip and passed out the moment she got home. She doesn't have a clue. Once you give birth, I'll find a way to divorce her. All of this, the wealth, the career, it will all be ours, my love." His every word was like a hammer blow to my head. Naive, gullible. So that's all I was to him and his family. A wealthy fool. A gold mine for them to exploit. "Very well, Liam. You will pay for underestimating me. I will play this game with you until the very end. We'll see who's crying and who's laughing when the final curtain falls." I silently returned to my room, my heart having turned to ice long ago. The next morning, I woke before the alarm. I had barely slept, my mind racing with plans for my counterattack. I looked at the man lying next to me, his face so peaceful and innocent in sleep. But I knew that behind that facade was a demon with insatiable greed and a wolf's heart. In the bathroom, I looked at my reflection. My eyes were dark from lack of sleep, but my gaze was sharp and determined. I was no longer the weak, love-struck Isabel of yesterday. Today, I had to live for myself. I chose a black power suit and applied my makeup carefully to hide my fatigue. When I went downstairs, Liam's family was already at the dining table. "Oh, you're up early, dear," Eleanor said with a cheerful smile. "Come and have some breakfast. I had the maid make your favorite croissants." Her fake smile made me sick. I shook my head, my voice cool. "I'm not hungry, Mother. Something urgent came up at the office. I have to go now." Liam frowned. "You just got back from your trip. Why don't you take a day off? What's so urgent?" "There's an issue with the new project. The partners have requested an urgent meeting," I replied curtly, not meeting his eyes. "I have to go." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. "Let me drive you," Liam said, quickly getting up. "No need. I can drive myself. You go ahead and eat," I said, then firmly closed the door behind me, giving him no chance to argue. In the car, I took a deep breath. The fresh morning air of Paris did little to lift my spirits. I drove straight to the Beaumont Group headquarters. This was where I belonged. This was my home turf. The moment I got to my office, I called in my assistant of many years, Claire. She was smart, efficient, and fiercely loyal. I trusted her completely. "Claire, I need you to do something for me." "It's extremely confidential," I said, my tone serious. Claire nodded. "Of course, Isabel. Whatever you need. Use all your resources to investigate my husband, Liam Dubois. I need to know everything he's been up to for the past 6 months. Where he's been, what he's done, who he's met with. I need credit card statements, call logs, and I need you to pay special attention to a woman named Chloe." I handed Claire a piece of paper with the little information I had on her. Claire's eyes widened in surprise, but she didn't ask any questions. She knew when to speak and when to stay silent. "I understand. I'll get a report to you as soon as possible." After Claire left, I made a second call, this time to my personal assistant, Marie, who handled my private affairs. "Marie, I need you to go to my house right now. I have an unexpected business trip to Singapore. It could be for a few weeks. Tell the housekeeper to pack a small bag for me. But most importantly, go into my room, open the safe, and take out all the jewelry, watches, and all the property deeds and savings bonds in my name. Bring everything to my office immediately. And be discreet. Tell everyone I need the documents for my trip. Don't let anyone suspect anything." "Yes, of course. I'm on my way," Marie replied. With those two important tasks taken care of, I felt a sense of relief. Securing my valuable assets was the first step. I couldn't leave them in a house that would soon no longer be mine. The business trip was a cover, giving me the time and space to organize everything, and also to see how Liam and his family would react. About 2 hours later, Marie arrived with a small suitcase and a thick folder of documents. I checked everything. All my most important possessions were now safely in my hands. I had Marie book me a flight to Nice for that afternoon. I wasn't going to Singapore. I just needed a quiet place to think and plan my next move. Before leaving for the airport, I called Liam. I made my voice sound tired and a little regretful. "Darling, I'm so sorry. There really is a problem with the Singapore project. The partners need me to fly out this afternoon. I'll probably be gone for a few weeks. I have to leave right away. I won't have time to come home and say goodbye to you and your parents." Liam seemed surprised, but his voice quickly became sweet. "That's all right, my love. Work is important. You take care of yourself." "Do you want me to come to the airport to see you off?" he asked. "No, that's okay. I'm going with a few people from the company. You just stay home and take care of yourself and your parents. And don't forget to look after Sophie. Bring her home from her grandparents this weekend so she can spend some time with you." I deliberately mentioned our daughter to gauge his reaction. "Don't worry, I will. Have a safe flight. Call me when you get there." I hung up and smirked. His acting was impeccable. But unfortunately for him, the audience already knew the script. "Go ahead and enjoy your last days of freedom, Liam. Because when I return, nothing will be the same. In this game, I'm the one who makes the rules." I checked into a luxurious resort on the coast in Nice. I told everyone I was in Singapore, but in reality, I needed a quiet place, far enough from Paris, to clear my head and process everything. My parents were on an extended trip through Europe, and I didn't want to worry them, so I didn't tell them what was happening. I conducted all my business through emails and video calls, creating the perfect illusion of a working trip. For the first few days, Liam called me regularly. His voice was as sweet and concerned as ever. He told me about things at home, about his parents, about the company. He had no idea that I listened to his every word with contempt and disgust. I played my part as the wife away from home, my voice tinged with fatigue from work and a longing for my family. Our little play continued flawlessly. On the third day, Claire sent me an encrypted email. It was the detailed report I had requested. I sat by the window, looking out at the sea, and opened each file. The more I read, the tighter my grip on the mouse became. Claire's report was more detailed than I could have imagined. For the past 6 months, Liam had been in contact with Chloe almost daily. The call logs showed that on some days they had spoken dozens of times, with some calls lasting for over an hour in the middle of the night. His credit card statements from the supplementary card I had given him showed regular payments for baby supplies, prenatal vitamins, and expensive meals at fine dining restaurants. The GPS tracker on the car I had bought him showed a frequently visited address, a high-end apartment in the 16th arrondissement. When I read the address, my heart felt like it stopped. The 16th arrondissement. I quickly opened the folder of property deeds that Marie had brought me. After a moment of searching, I pulled out a certificate of ownership. That was it, the apartment on the 21st floor. It was an apartment I had bought with my own savings before we were married, with the intention of renting it out for some passive income. I remembered a conversation with Liam about a year ago. He had told me that a friend had introduced him to a bright university student from out of town who was from a poor family and needed a safe, affordable place to live. He suggested I rent the apartment in the 16th to her, saying it was a shame to leave it empty, and that renting to someone we knew would give us peace of mind. His suggestion seemed reasonable, and I felt sorry for the poor student's situation. I agreed to rent it to her at a very low price, without even drawing up a detailed contract. I just gave Liam the keys and let him handle everything. I was so busy with work, I didn't have time to pay attention to such trivial matters. So that was it. The poor student was Chloe. He had been using my own property, my own kindness, to house his mistress, to build a home for himself and his son. Liam's deceit and audacity were beyond anything I could have imagined. He had not only betrayed me, but he had also turned me into a fool, an accomplice in his own affair. A wave of anger washed over me. I wanted to fly back to Paris immediately, storm into that apartment and expose them to the world. But my reason held me back. Acting on impulse would solve nothing. It would only ruin my plan. I had to stay calm. I had to gather more evidence. I needed to see it with my own eyes, to have irrefutable proof. I immediately called Marie and asked her to book me a flight back to Paris for the earliest flight the next morning. I have to come back for something urgent, but don't tell anyone. Let everyone think I'm still in Singapore. That night I couldn't sleep. The night sea was as dark and deep as the emptiness in my heart. I once thought my love was as beautiful as the sunrise over the beach, but it was just an illusion. When night fell, the ugly, naked truth was revealed. I took the earliest flight back to Paris. The Charles de Gaulle airport was still relatively quiet in the early morning. I didn't go back to the townhouse, nor did I go to the office. Instead, I took a taxi to an address in the Montmartre district. It was a small, serviced apartment that I had asked Marie to rent for me. I needed a temporary place to stay, a secret base for my plan. After dropping off my luggage, I changed into a simple, casual outfit, not the designer clothes I usually wore. Then, I drove a nondescript car that I had arranged for, towards the 16th arrondissement. I didn't want to be recognized, especially by Liam. The neighborhood was one of the most desirable places to live in Paris, with strict security and a serene atmosphere. I parked at a cafe across the street from the apartment building, choosing a secluded corner with a clear view of the entrance to the underground parking garage. I ordered a black coffee, put on my sunglasses, and waited patiently. Time crawled by. My mind replayed memories of Liam, of the loving words he had said, the caring gestures he had made. Was any of it real? Or was it all just a carefully calculated act from the very beginning? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know anymore. The only things that mattered now were the truth and justice. Around noon, a familiar car slowly emerged from the garage. It was the black Mercedes I had given Liam for our 3rd wedding anniversary. My heart pounded in my chest. I saw Liam get out of the car. He was dressed in comfortable loungewear and slippers. He opened the back door, and a woman slowly stepped out. Even though I had prepared myself, the sight of her still sent a pang of pain through my chest. It was Chloe, the distant cousin from the countryside. She was wearing a loose-fitting maternity dress, but it couldn't hide her very pregnant belly. She looked like she was due any day now. Liam wrapped his arm around her, supporting her with a tenderness and love that I hadn't received from him in a long time. He looked at her with a gentle gaze, and then he bent down and pressed his ear to her belly, smiling and saying something. They looked like a happy family built on my pain and deceit. I sat frozen in my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I watched as Liam escorted Chloe into a nearby organic grocery store. He pushed the cart, patiently following her as she selected her food. He bought all the best things for an expectant mother: salmon, organic beef, fresh vegetables. He took better care of her than he had of me when I was pregnant with Sophie. Perhaps it was because she was carrying the male heir for the Dubois family, while I had only given him a daughter. I quietly took out my phone, zoomed in the camera as far as it would go, and took pictures of their affectionate moments. Every photo, every short video clip was a solid piece of evidence of his betrayal. The pain inside me slowly morphed into a cold, hard hatred. I no longer felt sad, only a sense of ridicule for my own foolishness over the years. After they finished shopping, they returned to the car. Liam carefully opened the door for Chloe. Then he loaded the numerous bags of groceries. Before getting into the car, he turned and planted a kiss on her forehead. In that moment, I buried any love I had left for him. I waited for Liam's car to disappear before starting my own. I didn't follow them. I knew where they were going. I drove aimlessly around the city, trying to sort through the chaotic thoughts in my head. Everything was crystal clear. I had the evidence. Now, I had to think about my next step. I wouldn't confront them yet. I would wait. I would wait for the perfect moment, the moment they least expected it, to deliver the final blow. A blow so devastating they would never recover. I would be the one to write the ending to this play. Back at the serviced apartment, I made a cup of hot tea and sat quietly by the window. The lights of Paris were beginning to twinkle as evening fell. The city was a blur of motion, but my heart was strangely calm. The images I had witnessed earlier no longer caused me pain. Instead, they were like an anesthetic, numbing the last of my feelings for this marriage. I started to reflect, to piece everything together from the very beginning. I met Liam at the university library. I was a final year student, and he had graduated 2 years before and was struggling to find a job. I was drawn to his scholarly appearance, his intellectual glasses, and his intense focus when he was reading. To get close to him, I, a young woman who had been chauffeured around her whole life, learned to take the bus, to eat at cheap diners, and to dress in the simplest clothes so as not to intimidate him. I had hidden my true identity, telling him I came from an ordinary middle-class family, that my parents could just barely afford my education. Liam believed me. He would tell me about his difficult upbringing in the countryside, his dreams of a better life, his desire to provide his parents with a comfortable old age. I was deeply moved by his filial piety and his ambition. I thought I had found a diamond in the rough, one that just needed a little polishing to shine brightly. Our love blossomed, pure and simple. I was happy in the world I had created for myself. Happy to ride on the back of his old scooter, happy to share an ice cream cone with him, happy to see his smile when I gave him a new shirt. I loved him with all the innocence and sincerity of a young woman, until the day I decided to introduce him to my family. The dinner was tense. My father, a man who had spent his life in the business world, saw right through Liam after just a few pleasantries. After Liam left, my father said something to me that I still remember to this day. "My dear, there is a big difference between ambition and greed. I don't object to you loving someone from a humble background, but I'm afraid you've chosen someone with a deceitful heart." I argued with my father then, accusing him of being too harsh, of being prejudiced against the poor. My mother was more gentle, simply advising me to think carefully. Despite their disapproval, I was determined to marry Liam. For my sake, my parents eventually relented. They threw us a lavish wedding, gave us the townhouse as a wedding gift, and my father created a managerial position for Liam in one of the company's subsidiaries. Looking back now, I can see the signs of his greed were there from the beginning, but my blind love had obscured them. I remember once, not long after we were married, Liam suggested I sell a piece of property that my mother had given me as part of my dowry, saying that investing the money in the stock market would yield a faster return. I refused, telling him it was a keepsake from my mother that I wanted to hold on to. He was angry with me for days. I had to appease him by buying him an expensive watch before he was happy again. At the time, I just thought he was business-minded and eager to prove himself. Not that he was eyeing my assets. Love had made me so naive and foolish. About 6 months after our wedding, Liam started talking about bringing his parents from the countryside to live with us in Paris. He told me how his parents had worked hard their whole lives for him, and now that he was in a better position, he wanted to be close to them to take care of them. "It's my duty to them," he had said, his voice filled with emotion, his eyes welling up with tears. Hearing his words, I agreed without a second thought. I was moved by his devotion to his parents. I thought that a man who loved and cared for his parents so much would surely be a good husband. Besides, the townhouse was spacious, and having his parents with us would make it feel more like a home. I personally drove with Liam to his hometown to pick them up. Seeing their small, dilapidated house for the first time, I felt even more sympathy for his family. I vowed to treat my in-laws well, to make up for the hardships they had endured. When Arthur and Eleanor arrived in Paris, I gave them the largest room on the first floor, with a window overlooking the garden and all the modern conveniences. I hired an extra housekeeper to take care of the cooking, laundry, and cleaning, so they wouldn't have to do anything. On weekends, I would take the whole family out to fancy restaurants, buy them expensive clothes and the best health supplements. In the beginning, they seemed very happy and content. Eleanor was always praising me, calling me the best daughter-in-law in the world, and boasting to her relatives and friends back home about their luxurious life in the city. Arthur, though a man of few words, was always pleasant to me. I truly believed I had a happy, complete family. But things began to change subtly after I became pregnant and gave birth to Sophie. When they found out I was having a girl, I saw the fleeting look of disappointment on Eleanor's face, though she quickly masked it with a forced smile. She started making comments like, "A child is a child, but a son to carry on the family name is better," or, "Our family's luck must be thin, that's why we weren't blessed with a boy." Their coldness became more apparent after Sophie was born. They rarely held their granddaughter. Whenever guests would come over and compliment Sophie on her beauty, Eleanor would just mumble something and find an excuse to walk away. She was no longer sweet to me, and she started to find fault with everything I did, from how I raised my child to how I managed the household finances. She accused me of being wasteful, of spending money like water, even as she was wearing the silk clothes I bought her and eating the gourmet food I paid for. Liam always sided with his mother. Whenever I complained about Eleanor's attitude, he would brush it off, saying, "She's old, don't mind her," or, "That's just her way, she doesn't mean anything by it." He also began to change, becoming more distant and cold towards me. He started coming home late more often, using the excuse of business meetings and work engagements. Looking back now, I realize that none of this was a coincidence. It was all part of their plan. They needed me, they needed my money to live a comfortable life, but at the same time they looked down on me because I couldn't give them a son. They had orchestrated a perfect play, with me as the tragic, foolish protagonist. I had been deceived and used by an entire family for years without knowing it. The truth was more bitter than Liam's affair. It revealed the absolute cruelty and calculation of the people I had once loved and respected with all my heart. After several days of wallowing in painful memories and the harsh reality, I finally regained my composure. My heart no longer ached. Instead, there was a void and a steely resolve. I knew I couldn't break down, not just for my own sake, but for my daughter, Sophie, and for the empire my parents had spent their lives building. I decided that the townhouse was no longer my home. It was once a sanctuary, but now it was just a stage for lies and deceit. This serviced apartment would be my command center, my true safe haven. But for the play to continue, to keep them from suspecting anything, I knew I had to go back and play the part of the oblivious wife. Every time I returned, it would be a test of my strength, but I had to do it. I maintained contact with Liam over the phone, continuing to play the role of the wife busy with work overseas. This cover gave me precious time to prepare. The first thing I did was call my uncle, Mark, the head of the legal department at the Beaumont Group. Mark had been with my father since the company's early days, and was someone I could trust implicitly. "Hello, Isabel," Mark's warm voice greeted me. "How's your trip going?" "I'm fine, Uncle," I replied. "Listen, I need your help with a very important personal matter, and I need you to keep this strictly confidential, not even a word to my parents." "What is it, my dear? You sound serious." The concern in his voice was comforting. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need you to find the prenuptial agreement that Liam and I signed 5 years ago. I need you to review all the clauses, make sure it's still legally sound, and that there are no loopholes. And I also need you to prepare all the necessary paperwork for a divorce, ensuring the most favorable outcome for me." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I knew Mark was shocked. He had been at my wedding, had wished us all the best. He could never have imagined it would come to this. "I understand," he finally said, his voice low. "You just focus on your work. Leave the legal matters to me. I'll review everything carefully and get back to you as soon as possible." "Thank you, Uncle," I said, a wave of relief washing over me. With legal support, I felt much more secure. The next step was to get a handle on the finances of the subsidiary company that Liam was managing. I had given him control of it as a way for him to prove himself, never imagining he would use it to his advantage. I knew I couldn't be reckless. What were they waiting for? They were waiting for the birth of their precious male heir. That was their trump card. So, I would wait too. I would let them bask in their joy and hope. I would let them believe their plan was about to succeed. And on the very day they thought they had everything, I would appear and take back what was mine, in the most public and ruthless way possible. My storm would hit on the sunniest of days, when they least expected it. In the following days, I operated from my secret base, managing my work remotely and silently monitoring my in-laws' every move. Liam still thought I was in Singapore, calling me every day with his fake sweet talk. He had no idea I was so close, watching his every move through the information I was gathering. One evening, Liam called, his voice more cheerful than usual. "My love, how's work over there? Everyone at home misses you so much." "It's the same as always," I replied in my well-rehearsed, tired voice. "I miss home too. I miss our daughter. You know, our 5th wedding anniversary is coming up. Do you remember?" he said, his tone suggestive. My heart turned a little colder, but I remained calm. The 5th anniversary. I had once looked forward to this day so much. I had planned a trip to Europe for the two of us. Now, it was just a bitter reminder of his deceit. "Of course I remember," I said, my voice flat. "It's hard to believe it's been 5 years." "So, what are you getting me this year?" he asked bluntly, without a hint of shame. "I saw that Audi just released a new sports car that looks amazing. Or maybe." He trailed off, but his meaning was clear. I wanted to laugh out loud at his audacity. Even now, while he was busy taking care of his pregnant mistress, he still had the nerve to ask me for money. "We'll see," I said, cutting him off coldly. "Work has been a bit challenging lately. The project might take longer than expected. Let's talk about gifts later." There was a palpable sense of disappointment on the other end of the line. "Oh, is that so? Well, that's okay. Your work is the most important thing. You just focus on that." His voice couldn't hide his frustration. I hung up and tossed the phone on the bed. I remembered the past anniversaries. Every year I would rack my brain trying to think of the perfect gift for him. From designer watches and custom-made suits to the Mercedes he was now using to drive his mistress around. I had given him everything unconditionally, without a second thought, simply because I loved him. And how did he repay my love? With betrayal and a plot to steal my assets. "Very well, Liam. This year, I have a special gift for you too. A gift that you and your family will never forget." A week after that phone call, I decided it was time for me to make an appearance. That evening, the Beaumont Group was hosting a grand gala to celebrate the opening of a new luxury shopping center. It was a major event, attended by the city's business elite and the media. I knew Liam would be there. As the director of the subsidiary and the chairman's son-in-law, I chose a burgundy evening gown, a simple yet elegant design that accentuated my figure. I wore my makeup bolder than usual, with sharp eyeliner and deep red lipstick. I wanted to appear not as a pitiful, betrayed wife, but as a queen returning to reclaim her kingdom. When I entered the ballroom, all eyes turned to me. They were surprised, thinking I was still on my business trip. I smiled and greeted our partners and guests, exuding confidence and power. I saw Liam talking to a group of people in a corner. When he saw me, his expression shifted from surprise and confusion to a flicker of panic. He quickly excused himself and walked towards me. "You're back. Why didn't you tell me?" "I would have picked you up from the airport," he said, forcing a smile and reaching out to put his arm around my waist. I smoothly sidestepped him. "I just landed this afternoon. I had an urgent matter to attend to at the office. I'm a bit tired. I didn't want to bother you." My voice was cold and distant, enough for those around us to notice. Liam was taken aback. but he tried to maintain a semblance of intimacy. "Well, it's good to have you back. Come, I want to introduce you to some friends." He tried to take my hand, but I deftly tucked it into my clutch. I smiled at the people he was with. A perfect social smile. "A pleasure to meet you. If you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with Mr. Dubois, the director of our partner company." I then turned and walked away, leaving Liam standing alone in the middle of the ballroom, looking utterly foolish. I could hear the whispers behind me. "Is something wrong with them? She seems so cold to her husband." That was exactly what I wanted. I wanted to plant seeds of doubt. I wanted Liam to feel the unease and confusion of not being in control. This was just the prelude to the main act. Throughout the evening, I deliberately kept my distance from Liam. I moved around the room, talking to partners, giving interviews to the press, completely ignoring his presence. Liam tried to approach me several times, but I always managed to evade him or get pulled into a conversation with other guests. Seeing his face darken with frustration brought me a small sense of satisfaction. After the gala, Liam was waiting for me in the parking lot. The moment he saw me, he walked up to me, his voice tinged with anger. "What's wrong with you? You treated me like a stranger all night. What's going on?" "I was working," I replied, my voice still flat and emotionless. This was an important event. I needed to focus on our partners. "Working? You avoided me all night and you call that working?" He raised his voice. I opened the car door, not looking at him. "I'm tired. I want to go home and rest. Are you coming or not?" Liam was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He got into the passenger seat. The ride home was tense and silent. He didn't say a word, and I had nothing to say to him. As we pulled up to the townhouse, I saw Eleanor sneaking out of the house, carrying a thermal container. When she saw our car, she jumped and quickly hid the container behind her back. I got out of the car and asked in an innocent voice, "Oh, Mother, where are you going so late? What's in the container? Is it something delicious for me? I'm starving after that long evening." Eleanor stammered, "Oh, I was just taking some soup to our neighbor, Mrs. Martin. She's been sick for a few days." I smirked to myself. What a clumsy lie. Mrs. Martin's children were all grown and lived nearby. Why would she need my mother-in-law to bring her soup in the middle of the night? Just then, Liam rushed over to rescue his mother. "That's right. Mother feels sorry for Mrs. Martin, living all alone, so she made her some nourishing soup. Now, Mother, you should go inside and rest. I'll take Isabel up to our room." He then gently pushed his mother towards the house. I watched them, my heart filled with contempt. They were so in sync, but their acting was terrible. Later that night, as I was sitting at my vanity, drying my hair, Liam came up behind me and wrapped his arms around me. "Darling, I'm sorry about tonight. I was wrong. Please don't be angry with me anymore." He started kissing my neck, his hands wandering under my nightgown. I was repulsed. I shot up, pushing his hands away. "I'm tired. I want to sleep. You should get some rest, too." I then got into bed, pulled the covers up, and turned my back to him. Liam stood there for a long moment, stunned by my blunt rejection. He sighed and then got into bed. We lay there in the same bed, but a deep, unbridgeable chasm separated us. The next morning, I went straight to the Beaumont Group headquarters. My cold behavior the previous night had clearly unsettled Liam and his mother, but they still couldn't guess my true intentions. They probably thought I was just upset about something trivial. All the better. Their overconfidence would be their downfall. I called an emergency meeting with the board of directors and the finance department. As the vice chairwoman of the board, I announced a decision that stunned everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen, in preparation for the upcoming capital raising for our new projects at the end of the year, the board has decided to conduct a comprehensive audit and restructuring of our cash flow, starting with the subsidiary companies. Effective immediately, I am ordering the finance department to temporarily freeze all spending accounts of the subsidiaries. All expenditures over 50,000 euros will require my direct approval. Normal operations will resume upon completion of the audit." My command was clear, firm, and left no room for debate. The reason I gave was perfectly sound from a business perspective, and no one could argue with it. But my real target was singular: to tighten the noose around Liam's neck. The subsidiary he managed had been given a generous budget to foster its growth. I knew he had been using those funds to support his mistress and to finance his lavish lifestyle. Now, I was cutting off his lifeline. As I expected, about an hour after the meeting, my phone rang. It was Liam. "Isabel? I just heard from the accounting department here. What's this about an audit? Why so sudden? My company has several urgent payments to make. This is going to make things very difficult for me," he said, his voice laced with anxiety. I replied in a calm, detached tone, as if speaking to a business associate. "This is a decision from the board, Liam. It's not just your company. The cash flow restructuring is necessary to ensure transparency before we approach new investors. As a director, you should understand this. If you have any truly urgent expenses, submit a formal request and I will review it. But the paperwork is so tedious, it will delay everything," he stammered. "Business is business, Liam. We have to follow procedures. There are no exceptions. Just follow the protocol." I then hung up, giving him no chance to plead his case. I knew Liam was on edge. Without the company's funds, he wouldn't be able to provide Chloe with the best hospital services, nor could he continue the extravagant lifestyle he had grown accustomed to. His anxiety was my pleasure. At the same time, I received a text from the private investigator I had hired. "Chloe has been admitted to the maternity ward at the American Hospital of Paris, expected to deliver within 24 hours. I smiled. Everything was falling into place. My moment was near. Liam called me several more times that day, but I didn't answer. I wanted him to taste the bitterness of helplessness and fear. That evening, I returned to the townhouse as usual. The atmosphere was heavy enough to cut with a knife. My in-laws watched me with scrutinizing eyes. Liam paced back and forth, his face etched with worry. During dinner, Liam's phone buzzed incessantly. He glanced at the screen and then quickly got up and went out to the garden to take the call. Even from a distance, I could hear the panic in his voice. A moment later, he came back inside, looking extremely distressed. He looked at me, his face a mask of sorrow. "Isabel, my best friend from university, Thomas. He was just in a car accident. He's in the emergency room, it's critical. I have to go to the hospital right now." The play had begun. I put down my fork and looked up at him, my expression one of deep concern. "Oh my God, that's terrible. Is he badly hurt? Which hospital is he in? Let me go with you." My enthusiastic response seemed to catch him off guard. He stammered, No, you don't have to. You just got back from work. You must be tired. It's chaotic over there. You wouldn't be able to help anyway. I can go by myself." "But he's your best friend, which makes him my friend too. How can I not go to see him when he's in trouble?" I continued to press him. "I said no," he snapped, his frustration boiling over. Realizing his mistake, he quickly softened his tone. "I mean, I'm just worried about you. You stay home. I'll call you with any updates. I have to go now." He grabbed his car keys from the table and rushed out the door as if he were being chased. Eleanor played her part well too. She clasped her hands together, her face a picture of worry. May God protect Thomas and see him through this. I watched Liam's car speed away, a cold smile on my lips. "Your play was very convincing, but now it's time for a change in the lead role." As soon as Liam's car was out of sight, I calmly went upstairs. I didn't change into a glamorous outfit, but a chic beige pantsuit that exuded power and elegance. I put on some light makeup, a sharp line of eyeliner, and a deep red lipstick. I wanted to appear composed and in control. I took the keys to my own car and drove out of the house. Destination: the American Hospital of Paris. "Liam, I'm bringing you your 5th anniversary gift right now." The maternity ward at the American Hospital of Paris was still brightly lit and busy, even at night. I had no trouble finding the VIP delivery suites. From a distance, I could see 2 familiar figures pacing anxiously outside a waiting room, Liam and his mother. Liam was pacing back and forth, occasionally peeking through the small glass window on the delivery room door. His face was a mixture of anxiety and hopeful anticipation. Eleanor was sitting on a bench, her hands clasped in prayer, her lips moving silently. They looked every bit the part of a family eagerly awaiting the arrival of a new life, the male heir they had so desperately longed for. I paused at the end of the hallway, silently observing them for a few moments. My heart was still. Their betrayal and deceit had killed any feelings I had for them. Now, all that remained was cold, hard reason and a single objective. I started walking towards them, the sound of my heels clicking on the polished floor, echoing through the quiet hallway. The sound made Liam turn his head. The moment he saw me, time seemed to stand still. The expectant smile on his face froze, his eyes widened in disbelief, panic, and utter shock. His entire body seemed to turn to stone. Seeing her son's strange reaction, Eleanor turned to look as well. The moment she saw me, she too was stunned, her mouth agape. I slowly walked up to them and stopped. I looked from Liam to his mother, and then to the closed door of the delivery room. "Isabel," Liam stammered, his voice cracking. What are you doing here? I thought you were." He was still trying to cling to his clumsy lie. "Your friend?" I cut him off, my voice as cold as ice, but every word was crystal clear. "Your friend's name is Chloe, and she's in that delivery room, isn't she, Liam?" My words hit him like a bolt of lightning. His face turned as white as a sheet. He took a step back, his body trembling. Eleanor, having recovered from her initial shock, quickly became furious. She shot up from her seat and pointed a finger at me, her voice shrill and venomous. You dare to follow my son? What are you doing here? This is no place for you. Get out of my sight." I didn't even glance at her. My eyes were fixed on Liam's face, the face of the man I had once loved with all my heart. "Do you have anything to say? Or should I say it for you? The distant cousin story that you and your mother concocted. Very clever. You even used the apartment I rented out as a love nest for your mistress. You're quite the schemers, aren't you?" Just then, the delivery room door swung open, and a nurse walked out, a beaming smile on her face, a bundle of white blankets in her arms. "Congratulations. It's a healthy baby boy, 3.5 kilos. The nurse's cheerful announcement, in the midst of the tense silence, was jarringly ironic. Eleanor, on instinct, lunged towards the baby, her face breaking into a momentary expression of pure joy. Liam remained frozen, unsure of what to do. I looked at the crying newborn, then back at Liam. A cold, mocking smile spread across my face. "Congratulations on your son, the heir to your family name. Now, we can finally talk about the divorce, can't we?" My words, though spoken softly, had a greater impact than any shout. They doused Eleanor's fleeting joy with a bucket of ice water and snapped Liam out of his stupor. Eleanor whirled around, her eyes blazing with fury. Forgetting all about her newborn grandson, she charged at me like a wild animal. "What did you say? Divorce? Who do you think you are to divorce my son? You're a barren woman. That's why you couldn't have a son. Now that my son has someone to give him an heir to carry on the Dubois name, you're jealous. You want to ruin everything. You wicked, heartless woman." She spewed a torrent of the most hateful words that she had probably been bottling up for a very long time. I stood there, listening silently, my expression unchanged. My calmness seemed to enrage her even more. "Mother, stop it." Liam finally came to his senses and grabbed his mother's arm. He turned to me, his eyes pleading and fearful. "Isabel, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. I was just what?" I raised an eyebrow, my voice challenging. Trapped by her? Or was it a moment of weakness? Which cliché are you going to use, Liam? Do you still think I'm a fool? I opened my handbag, took out a thin folder, and tossed it onto a nearby chair. "Here's some interesting reading material I've gathered. A few photos of you and Chloe on a romantic stroll. Your credit card statements, paying for baby supplies. and a copy of the deed to the apartment in the 16th arrondissement in the name of Isabel Beaumont. Do you want me to read it all out loud for everyone here to hear? The color drained from Liam's face. He looked at the folder as if it were a monster. He knew there was no way out. So, I continued, my voice sharp and clear, I'm giving you two options. 1, we have an amicable divorce. You sign the papers and walk away with nothing. No assets. The townhouse, the cars, the company shares, they were all mine before the marriage, as stipulated in the prenuptial agreement you signed. I won't ask for the trivial things I've given you over the years. Consider it payment for your 5-year performance. I paused, looking him straight in the eye. 2, if you don't agree, I'll see you in court. I will sue you for fraud, misappropriation of assets, and violation of our marriage contract. With the evidence I have, and the Beaumont Group's legal team, what do you think your chances are? Oh, and I'll also make sure your story, the story of a gold-digging husband who cheated on his wife to support his mistress, is on the front page of every newspaper. Let's see what happens to the career you've worked so hard to build then. Every word I said was a heavy blow to his pride, and his carefully laid plans. Liam staggered, having to lean against the wall to support himself. When Eleanor heard the words "walk away with nothing," she shrieked, "No, that's impossible. My son has worked so hard for this family, for your family's company. Why should he leave with nothing? You're being cruel." "Worked hard?" I scoffed. "His greatest achievement was deceiving me and using my money to support another family. Isn't that right? You should teach your son that you should never try to take what isn't yours." I turned back to Liam, giving him my final ultimatum. "Think carefully. You have 24 hours. My lawyer will be waiting for you at his office at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Whether you show up or not is up to you." With that, I turned and walked away, my steps firm and decisive. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see the pathetic faces of those liars for another second. Behind me, I could still hear Eleanor's hysterical screams and Liam's terrifying silence. The play was finally over. I didn't go back to the serviced apartment. I drove straight to the townhouse. Although it was tainted by their lies, it was still my house, my property. I had to clean it up myself. The first thing I did when I got home was call a 24/7 security company. Within half an hour, a team of locksmiths arrived. I had them replace all the locks, from the main gate to every door in the house, with the latest smart lock system. From now on, only my and my daughter's fingerprints could open these doors. Next, I called the housekeeper to the living room. I gave her a generous bonus. "I need you to pack up all of Mr. and Mrs. Dubois's personal belongings. Everything: clothes, shoes, even the smallest items. Don't leave anything behind. Pack it all up carefully and move it to the storage shed. Once you're done, you can take some time off." The housekeeper looked at me with a mixture of surprise and fear, but she didn't dare to ask any questions. She just nodded and went to do as she was told. I sat on the sofa, silently watching as their things were carried away, like a cleansing of the filthy memories from my home. It was a liberating feeling. That night, I slept soundly, the most peaceful sleep I had had in weeks. The next morning, at 8:30 sharp, I arrived at Mark's law office. I was wearing a white pantsuit, my makeup light but my expression resolute. Mark was already there, with a thick file of documents neatly prepared. "Are you sure about this, Isabel?" Mark asked me one last time. "I've never been more sure, Uncle," I replied, my voice firm. At exactly 9 o'clock, Liam walked in, alone. He looked haggard and pathetic. His eyes were red, his face unshaven, his clothes wrinkled. He had clearly not slept. He didn't have a lawyer with him, probably out of shame, or perhaps because he couldn't afford one. He sat down across from me, unable to meet my gaze. "Isabel, can't we talk about this? For Sophie's sake. Don't you dare bring my daughter into this." I cut him off, my voice cold. "She doesn't have a father like you. You have 15 minutes to read and sign these papers. Otherwise, I'm going straight to the courthouse." Mark pushed the folder towards Liam. He tremblingly picked up the papers. The more he read, the paler he became. The divorce petition, the asset division agreement. Everything was clearly stated. He would get nothing but his personal belongings, which were already packed and waiting for him in my storage shed. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with desperation. I've worked for the company for years. Doesn't that count for anything? You can't do this to me. I laughed, a scornful, bitter laugh. Your work? You mean using the company's money to support your mistress? Or using the Beaumont Group's connections for your own personal gain? Do you want me to call in the auditors to clarify your contributions? My threat crushed his last bit of resistance. Liam lowered his head, his hand trembling as he picked up the pen. He hesitated for a long moment, then he signed each page. The moment he finished, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. This sham of a marriage was finally over. Liam stood up and stumbled out of the room like a lost soul. Before he left, he looked back at me one last time. In his eyes, I saw regret, but it was too late. It's over, my dear, Mark said, his voice filled with relief. I nodded and smiled at him, a genuine smile for the first time in a long time. Yes, it's finally over. I'm free, Uncle. Leaving the law office, I didn't feel the elation of a victor, but a strange sense of peace, like recovering from a long illness. The divorce wasn't the end, but the first step in cleaning up my life, in erasing the stains he and his family had left behind. That afternoon, I contacted a reputable real estate agency in Paris. I wanted to sell 2 properties immediately, the townhouse and the luxury apartment in the 16th arrondissement. I want a quick sale, I told the agent. I'm not looking for the highest price, but a clean, swift transaction. You have my full authority to handle everything. The agent was a bit surprised by my decisiveness, but he was a professional. Both were prime properties, and finding a buyer would be easy. Selling the townhouse was to erase the painful memories. Every corner, every object reminded me of their deceit. I didn't want to live in that space anymore. Selling the apartment was to cut off the source of the problem, to get rid of the love nest built on my betrayal. I would donate the proceeds from the sale to charity as a way to cleanse myself of the bad luck. With the properties taken care of, I started to think about my final move. Liam and his family had gambled everything on their precious male heir. Their old-fashioned, sexist mindset was their ultimate motivation. So, I would destroy that very motivation. I would show them that the thing they had paid such a high price for was also a lie. I remembered Arthur's words from that fateful night. As long as the boy is born healthy, and we have the DNA test results in hand, they had even planned for a DNA test. That meant they didn't completely trust their mistress either. Or maybe they needed it as leverage in a potential asset dispute with me. Whatever the reason, it gave me an idea. I called the private investigator who had helped me before. I have a new job for you. It's a bit sensitive, and it requires absolute discretion and skill. Just tell me what you need, the man's calm, reliable voice replied. I need a DNA sample from a newborn baby boy, Chloe's son. He's currently at a postpartum care center near the American Hospital of Paris. I need you to get a sample from the baby, a few strands of hair, a nail clipping, a cheek swab, anything that can be tested. And I also need a sample from Liam. It has to be done without anyone knowing. Money is no object. The investigator was silent for a moment, considering the request. It won't be easy, but it's not impossible. I'll need some time and more details about their schedule. I'll provide you with everything you need. Just get it done. I want the results as soon as possible. After hanging up, I looked out the window. The Paris sky was turning dusky. Revenge didn't bring me joy, but it brought me justice. Justice for my trampled innocence, my betrayed trust, and the years of my youth I had wasted on an unworthy man. The wait for the results was agonizing. I buried myself in work to keep my mind occupied. I restructured the subsidiary that Liam had managed, firing the incompetent cronies he had hired and replacing them with truly talented people. Work helped me find myself again, the strong, decisive businesswoman I was meant to be, not just a housewife. About a week later, the investigator called. I have what you need. The test results are from a reputable lab, fully certified and legally valid. I'm sending them to you in an encrypted email. My heart skipped a beat. Thank you. You did a great job. My hand trembled as I opened the email. A PDF file appeared. I scrolled down to the last page, to the conclusion. Based on the DNA analysis, Liam Dubois is excluded as the biological father of the male child. The probability of paternity is 0%. 0%. The number stared back at me. Even though I had been prepared for it, I still felt a jolt. It was laughable, truly laughable. It turned out that I wasn't the only one who had been deceived. Liam and his entire family were victims in another play. The precious male heir they had worshipped, the one they had sacrificed everything for, was the product of another man. Liam. He had not only lost his wealth, his career, and his family, but now, his last hope, his only source of pride, was also a lie. I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, triumphant laugh. This was the most cruel and perfect final blow. This gift would surely make his life a living hell. I printed the test results on a sheet of fine paper and placed it in an elegant cream-colored envelope. I didn't write a single word. The paper spoke for itself. I called a courier service and requested a hand delivery to Liam at the address of the luxury postpartum care center where Chloe and the baby were staying. I even instructed the courier to choose a time when both Liam and Chloe would be present to receive the gift. After sending the envelope, I felt a sense of peace. All debts were now settled. For the rest of the play, I would be a spectator. 2 days later, I was in my office, reviewing the quarterly report, when Claire knocked and entered, a hesitant look on her face. "Isabel, there's something going viral on social media. I think you might want to see it." She placed a tablet in front of me. On the screen was a video that was being shared at an incredible speed. The headline read, "Tycoon gets cuckolded at postpartum care center. Vicious brawl with mistress." I pressed play. The video was clearly shot on a phone, shaky but with clear audio. The setting was the lobby of a luxurious postpartum care center. The main characters were none other than Liam and Chloe. Liam looked like a wounded, crazed animal. He was holding a crumpled piece of paper in his hand, the DNA test results, and screaming at Chloe, "Tell me, whose son is he? You dared to lie to me and my family?" Chloe, still weak from childbirth, sat in a wheelchair, her face drained of all color. She stammered, What are you talking about? I don't understand. He's your son, of course." "Mine?" Liam laughed manically. "You still dare to say he's my son? It's right here in black and white. Read it." He threw the paper in her face. "I lost everything for you. For your so-called son. Do you know that? Now tell me, what am I supposed to do?" The argument escalated. In his rage, Liam pushed Chloe's wheelchair over. Nurses and security guards rushed in to intervene. The scene was chaotic. Liam's curses, Chloe's sobs, the shouts of the onlookers. It was a symphony of misery and destruction. I watched the entire video, not missing a single detail. I didn't feel triumphant, nor did I feel any pity. I just felt a sense of emptiness. Greed and lies ultimately lead to ruin. They had paved their own path to destruction, and now they had to face the consequences. The video became a social media storm. Liam's identity was quickly exposed. The son-in-law of the Beaumont Group, the young, successful director, the once enviable titles were now a source of ridicule. His story became a cautionary tale, a lesson in infidelity and foolishness. Liam's career and his reputation were buried in a single afternoon. One beautiful Sunday morning, about a week after the social media frenzy, I was playing with my daughter Sophie in the small garden of the new, cozier house I had moved into. It was a fresh start for both of us. The doorbell rang. The housekeeper came back, looking uncomfortable. "Ma'am, Mr. Dubois and an older woman are here. They say they want to see you." I knew this day would come. I picked up Sophie and said, "Go play with the nanny for a little while, sweetie. Mommy has to take care of something." I went to the gate. Standing outside were two familiar figures, now looking strange and pathetic. Liam was gaunt, his eyes sunken, his face lifeless. Beside him was Eleanor, looking just as haggard. Her hair had turned grayer, Her back was stooped, and she had lost all of her former arrogance. The moment they saw me, they both fell to their knees. "Isabel, I'm so sorry," Liam cried. "I know I was wrong. It was all my fault. Please forgive me just this once." Eleanor, tears streaming down her face, pleaded, "Isabel, please, my dear. I was old and foolish. Please don't hold it against me. Have mercy. Give Liam a chance to live. He's lost everything." I stood there, watching them, my heart unmoved. A chance to live? When you were plotting to take all my assets and leave me with nothing, did you ever think about giving me a chance to live? My question stunned them. Liam looked up at me in disbelief. What do you mean? When did you know?" "I've known since the night I got back from my business trip, when I overheard your little secret conversation in your parents' room," I said, my voice calm and cruel. "I knew everything. The plan to steal my assets, the mistress, the precious heir. Everything that happened after that was part of my plan. I was just watching your play and rewriting the ending. The final truth was a dagger to their last glimmer of hope." Liam's face contorted, his pleas turning into utter despair. He finally understood how thoroughly he had been defeated. I didn't want to say another word. I pressed the button on the intercom. "Security, there are 2 trespassers at my gate. Please escort them away." I walked back into my house and closed the gate, leaving their desperate cries and pleas behind me. Everything was truly over. I had cleaned up my life, reclaimed my freedom and my self-respect. Seeing my daughter Sophie running towards me, I smiled. From now on, our future would only be filled with sunny days.